Okay, just let's start with on Friday you take off to go to another town.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, this story of the accident really relates to what I was doing with the credit union. I was going out every weekend to do workshops in other villages with teachers and people who wanted to start credit unions. And this weekend, I had been invited to come up to Incambi. So I left right after class on a Friday, drove up there. After a quick meal, I went to the school and it was filled with people, and I began working, discussing credit union. That went on till 11, maybe 12 o'clock at night. Saturday morning we got up early and had a little breakfast, and then it continued on through Saturday night. Sunday we were gonna, it was over on Saturday night. Sunday I was gonna drive back, and the priest there asked me if I would say one mass and then could take off any time. Well, I was going to say the early mass and then leave, and then he woke me up and told me that the priest in the neighboring parish had had a heart attack and he had to go over there. Could I take the two masses? So I took the two masses. He came back after the second mass and insisted I stay for lunch, and it was Sunday lunch in the missions in Cameroon is a pretty heavy meal. It's a curry dinner, and I ate the curry dinner and I had a beer. I had two Cameroonians that came with me that were learning credit unions. One was a teacher at the college, and another one was from a local credit union, Kitty Womb Credit Union, and they just wanted more education. They were in the car, and to make a long story short, coming back, I kept falling asleep, waking up, and we came to a Kennedy lorry, which is a wide USAID gift to Cameroon, which take one of our big trucks, and it's in the Public Works Department. So there was no room to pass, but I decided to pass, and in attempting to pass, the side of the road fell out. There was a measured later, a 70-degree slope. You said rolling down. There was no rolling down for me. On the first roll, I flew out of the car. And there I am, 6'4" frame, a Volkswagen. How I didn't get smashed, I don't know. The hill was filled with rocks. And I wasn't unconscious long, because when I woke, I heard the last rolls of the car, kabloom, kabloom, down, way down the hill, and it was way down. I sat up and I looked at my shirt, and it was just completely red with blood. The people in the truck, the lorry we call it, stopped, and two of the workers that were in the front seat of the truck came running down, and one of them looked at me and took a dirty rag, I don't know where he got it, and he scooped up my hand and put the rag in my hand and put it on my ear and said, "Hold your ear." So in those kind of situations, you all of a sudden become very obedient. And I held my ear, and then they went running down to rescue the two in the car. Well, they were in better shape than I was. One we found out later, had a broken arm, and the other one was just beaten up a little bit. He was the one that sued. The one with the broken arm didn't. But that's all right. They deserved getting a settlement from that, because it was completely my fault. They walked them back up, then picked me up and walked me up the rest of the hill, put us all in the truck, squeezed us in there, and turned around and raced back to Incambi, where there was they knew there was a clinic, and there would be some nurses there anyway, a maternity clinic. I took my hand off my ear to look in the rearview mirror, and I didn't put it right back. There was just a hole where my ear was. All the ear was off, and it was wrapped up here in my hand. I mean, just was down and attached to a string right here, all the way down. I just tore the ear off. We got there, and we found out, fortunately, there was a good surgeon there, and he was. I can't remember what his name was. He was a Hungarian, and he had worked in Shisong Hospital. Mother Camilla had found him, and he was a Nazi, and he had escaped from the communists when they took over Hungary, and he was looking around for work, and she brought him in, and he was a remarkable surgeon. The stories about this guy were just abound. You know how he took a saw and sawed off a leg, saw right out of the carpenter shop, and fixed it up so the guy lived. You know, all kinds of stories with this guy. The primitive equipment he had, what he could do. Well, that was the good news. The bad news is that he finished his surgery about noon every day, and he started drinking gin, and he wouldn't stop until he finished a bottle of gin, and he would be drunk for the rest of the day. And that was his day. Well, this was about 6 o'clock at night when we got back. So I imagine he was as drunk as could be. And I can remember little bits and pieces coming in there, I was standing up, and all of a sudden I fainted, and somebody caught me and laid me down, and one of the nurses, African nurses, said, "Doctor, he's in shock." And I can remember them pulling down my pants and shoving a needle into my butt, pure morphine. And from that moment on, I realized what drug addicts get out of this stuff. It's good. It really felt good. And so in and out with this morphine was about all they had there, I guess. That night went on, and the next thing I know is I'm standing, no electricity. He's working over my ear, putting it back together, tying it up with strings here, and somehow fastening it back to my head with these needles sewing all over the thing, and he's singing German songs, and I'm singing German songs. I'd spent 1961 in Germany and tried to learn a little German and liked the German songs, and I'm singing the German songs like I knew them, or along with them. And then I'm going in and out of consciousness. Well, all these nurses are standing there with tilly lamps on their heads, and this is the light that he does this with. Well, the next day, that night, I had what I've got right now. I've had this on and off for years, a cough. Well, I'd broken most of my ribs, so this cough was extremely painful. Every time I coughed, I would feel it in my ribs. Can't do much about a broken rib. You just let it go. But I cough, and I was in my hospital bed, propped up somewhat. I can remember that. And I woke up out of the morphine, and there was a woman, an African woman, with a well-developed, big woman. And she had a cup of hot tea. And I would drink the hot tea, and it was very soothing. And then she would fix the pillows behind me. This happened 2 or 3 times. And then all of a sudden, I just started crying. I really wasn't sad. I just kind of release. And she held me, and I put my, here I am, a Sullivan, my head right between her breasts, and she's stroking my head. Well, she puts me back to bed again, and I stop my sobbing, and I go to sleep finally. Slept very soundly. And in the morning, there's some nurses around me, and I'm saying, I want to thank that woman that nurse who was with me last night. She said, there was no nurse with you last night. They swore there was nobody. They know who was there, and there was nobody with me. that remains a mystery. That remains a mystery. I suspected a teacher from that area whose wife would be from that area, that she might have come and comforted me. I don't know. I don't know. But that's the first little vignette. The second one is that the doctor comes in, the Hungarian, who I cannot remember his name, comes in and says, looks at the work he did, stitches and everything else. Now he's stone sober. It's early in the morning, and he said, I want you to go back to Shisong. You'll get full hospital care there, but don't let those Italians touch us. Keep that on your head. There were Italian doctors there. Evidently, he didn't like them. So he wanted to make sure, promised him, Italians could not get in that bandage. Don't let them even open up the bandage. He said they'll mess it up. So I did. I went back. They drove me back. He gave me another shot of morphine to make it on the road. The priest there from Incambi drove me in his Volkswagen. We came back to the site of the accident. I looked down and I saw the car way down there. I looked at him with that priest. He said, how did you live through that? And I said, that's a mystery to me. Took me to Shisong, and there I was in Shisong Hospital for a week. And he was up in Incambi. The doctor came, and he came down, maybe it was 5 or 6 days after he did his operation. He came back to Shisong, and he came in with Mother Camilla, and he took off the bandage, and he sniffed around, and Mother Camilla sniffed around. I found out later to see if there was any gangrene, and then Mother Camilla clapped. And he clapped, and he said, I think Father can join us for lunch. And so I went in and had lunch with this guy and Mother Camilla, and it was an excellent lunch. In that time there is when I sat and I thought how my life, and would I, if this was I'm obedient to my mother, I'm obedient to my bishop, I just do what people ask me to do. I said, what is my purpose in life? What is it really I want to do? And this goes back to the story of my vocation. And I didn't really answer that question, but I decided, whatever else it was, this was my death. I had met my death. And who knows whether, anything is behind the door, but as Jacques Brel says, in front of the door, there is you, my death. And if this is what my death was, then what am I worried about? I've got a life to live from here on out. And here comes Fred.
I'm going to cut for a second.
Yeah, you better.